I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:05. And I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sarah's got her.
Okay, great. Okay. Do we have any?
What does that mean, Brian? Nothing. We're trying to take care of everything that's going. Hey, she isn't a resident. She can't prove she's a resident. That's just what I said to her.
Okay, excuse me.
That's what I just said to her. She's not a resident.
Brian, this is your first warning.
I was out there. I
No.
was not in there yet. You can't give me no warning for anything.
This is your first warning that you are disrupting our meeting. So you have been
Did I
warned.
disrupt the meeting? No.
You have been warned. This was your first warning that you are disrupting our meeting. Okay? All right. We are, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Anybody?
Oh, can I add, unless you don't want to add it, talking about that grant?
Yeah, there's a fire grant.
Sure.
I mean, that's only if you want it, but I was thinking about it because I saw it today.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it on a.
Because I'm not prepared for it. I don't have this like this. I think it's on my email somewhere.
And it doesn't need to be an agenda item if you don't want.
Okay, we'll wait till next meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Any additions to the agenda? So the first administrative matter is approving the signing of the orders. I'd like to make a motion to approve payroll for 10/27/25 for $15,483.87 and for 10/13/25 for $14,599.98 and the orders for 10/28/25 for $48,402.86.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then the minutes from the last meeting, so I'm going to have one of you move that because I was not present for that meeting.
Okay. I will move to approve the minutes for the meeting 10/14/25.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I do not believe we have any announcements. I guess for just, something I'd like to announce is I was just speaking with the sheriff about the lowered speed limit, and he's been very, has shared with me that people have really slowed down, and I've noticed it as I've pulled out of Esquiline Hill, that people are driving much more slowly on Route 4, so I think it's, Jesse. So I think it's been a good thing. So I'm glad to hear that we're making progress on that. Okay, so the first thing is public comment. So does anybody online want to make any public comment? Carol, you have your hand raised.
Thank you. I'd just like everybody to know that I am disgusted with all of you and this whole town. Megan, your husband's a thief. Seth, you're a thief. Sarah Tully, you're a thief. And we've caught you all. So I think it's great. I think you should all be in jail, but whatever. No worries. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Anybody else on the computer have public comment? No? Okay, Brian. And just remember, you have been warned once about disrupting our meeting.
You've already, don't ever preach to me about anything. Don't tell me anything. Yeah, I'm gonna stop my 2 minutes now. Your husband's a thief, Seth's a thief. They tried to fraudulently put a permit in. Did you see that, Sarah?
Did you see the permit that was on appeal tonight, the one before that, that all of a sudden disappeared all of a sudden from your husband? Where he robbed the town for over $1,000, no payment on a permit for Seth. Seth's running a sand and gravel pit down the street. He's brought over 1,000 yards up here and got paid for it. He doesn't have a license to run anything on that property. He's got 2 unpermitted structures, but he made me pay for my structures on my lot. Your husband's a thief. He's a thief, a junkie, and a liar, and so's your husband. And so are you. And you don't live in town. Prove that you live in town. You definitely didn't live in town when we put you on the planning commission, did you? Did you, Sal? And you robbed the town as well. Your boyfriend did, not paying taxes because you refused to get an occupancy permit till me and Carol brought it up that you didn't have an occupancy permit, but you said you lived there, correct? Correct? So you robbed the town for about 15 grand in taxes, correct? Is that okay? You robbed the town for over $1,000 in a non-permit. Sarah Tully robbed the town for a bunch of money and never paid it back.
$1,450.
Yeah,
Thank
have a
you
nice
for your-
night.
Thank you for your input.
Yeah. Don't worry, we'll be displaying it a lot.
Okay. All righty. So the next item of business is the animal control ordinance, which we have, animal control ordinance and animal control ordinance violation. So were you going to speak to the violation? Okay, so Sarah Tully. Oh, I get my Sarahs
swear.
mixed up. Sarah will be speaking to the recent animal control ordinance violation in town.
Sure. So at the last meeting, the day of the meeting, Megan, as you saw, we received a rescue that we received from Rod. Basically, a sort of history of this dog on Wheelerville and down by the Girl Scout camp. So we decided to treat it like a complaint because it appeared at that time that nobody had really wanted to go through and Rod had said they weren't issuing a complaint. So I said I'd look into it, and here's what has happened. We spoke with our attorneys about where we are with being able to enforce the ordinance and the concern that this dog allegedly doesn't live in, or isn't, its owner doesn't live in Mendon. So we also looked at the ordinance to understand better who can enforce it.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke with Rod over the weekend, and Rod said, he gave me the whole rundown of the situation again. I had noted that I had spoken with Ryder about his willingness to help and to do some of the investigation and see if we can't bring this to a place where we can have something to act on. And he was very amenable. And then at the end of the conversation, told me that he had been thinking about resigning for a while, and if this was a good time, he would offer his resignation so that we can more formally establish a point of contact here with the Rutland County Sheriff as being the enforcer of the animal control ordinance. So we can accept his resignation. I think he's open, but he has said he doesn't want to doesn't want to have anything to do with this person.
This person.
Yeah. So I came back to Ryder and said, as we had discussed at our last meeting, that we would like him to contact the victims of the dog bites, reassess whether any of them wants to put in a complaint. And then he is also going to use the tools available to him to see if he can track down the owner. In the meantime, the lawyers looked at our ordinance and suggested that we do go ahead and update it to have the fees and the penalties in it directly. Still kind of up in the air as to whether we can, likely we can also have an additional, like a policy or a universal fees and fines and costs to the town that will be user friendly. But at least this will be rock solid in enforcement, that we have a list of what the penalties are.
So is that in the new one today?
So that, yep,
Yeah.
and that will be the recommendation as far as the ordinance is concerned, is that for today, we at least update it to include, the fees and fines, and you'll find that on, toward the end, on page 4 and 5. This means, so the recommendation was that we see if the Rutland County Sheriff would take over as the animal control officer. I spoke with Sheriff Fox, who did say, he's like, a lot of towns are now doing this. They're naming us as the animal control officer, and it is something that they would do. So happens, obviously, later on our agenda, we're at a point in time we're going to be negotiating a new contract, and already in our existing contract, ACO duties are part of what our deputy sheriff does for, can be something he does for 32 hours a week. So the discussion point for tonight is, one, at some point I'll move that we'll adopt the ordinance. But then I think we have to make a decision, or at least make an interim decision about, and this is where Sarah and I have talked, I'd love for her to weigh in with some background.
And she's talked to me about it.
Oh, she has, okay.
Yeah.
So we can, like, as the sheriff said, he's like, really what the issue is not that, like, when they have no problem enforcing our ordinance. But what happens when it's the weekend or off hours? And at that point, the sheriff's department has an arrangement with other towns where they pay a high per hour fee, but it's just for the ACO. And so I asked the sheriff if he would, if we were to go forward and say we'd like, for sort of like on-call basis for after hours and weekends, to be able to know we've got a sheriff available, would he negotiate? And he's very open to that. So that's still a possibility. We wouldn't know price like as of tonight, but it's just something to kind of get a temperature check on. And talking with Sarah, I think what we've kind of identified is that across the state, whenever you have a complaint that comes in, you really need, the first person is the one to, notify, do some background research on the dog and whether they're licensed, and then to notify the owner that they, provide the warning, unless it's a dog bite. And so dog bite is a little bit of a different issue and how it has to be handled. But we were thinking about, the cost that, like the high price point, we might be talking about if we're putting some of those costs onto our public safety budget, where we have other needs for public safety during hours or after hours. And maybe if we had the right person who would be willing to work on this, the ordinance. Ryder and I talked last night after our meeting again too, and he's very, he can speak for himself, but he'd be very open to supporting and coordinating with somebody, and he definitely has done this work in other towns. So it's kind of a combination of like, where do people call for now?
Yep.
And then,
Well, I would like for us to ask him not to resign immediately.
Yep.
And tell him we will put it out there on, Jesse will put it out on Front Porch Forum.
advertise.
And we will, do what we do.
Yep.
Find people.
Yep.
And see if we can find somebody
Yep.
by the beginning of the year.
Okay.
And keep it the way it is now.
Yep.
I think Rod, I think now we've handed this over to Ryder.
Right. One thing we may want to do, if that's the case, I would say our attorneys have said that the Rutland County Sheriff's Office does have the authority, like concurrent authority to enforce. But what they typically try to do is they defer to a local person.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe tonight I would say we have some sort of a motion just so that they feel more comfortable that even though Rod is staying on, we're going to specifically say that I'll put up some motion that says like, our intent is that you concurrently can enforce and do enforce and respond to when asked in like our ordinance. But I think that's a fine way to go.
And I think,
Okay.
you can put forth that motion.
Yep.
And then also the one to approve the new
Yep.
ordinance.
Yep. Was there, Sarah, did you already talk to Megan, or was there anything else you wanted to? She had a lot of
Oh,
insight.
I mean, I think you recapped that nicely. In the future budget process, I would recommend that the select board consider increasing the stipend for the animal control officer to make it similar to the fire warden that issues burn permits.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think if we want to get somebody that, to grab onto this and to work on it, I think we should increase it, and we can work that into this budget.
We could start catching all the thieves in town and arrest them, right?
So I think that we ought to just have when we're doing the budget for next year, and then this year, if we're going to do that, we'll just figure out where we're going to allocate those funds from and make that let everyone, make it known where we're going to be allocating those funds from.
Oh, one last thing on the specific problem dog. So we're waiting to hear from our attorneys about whether there's some mechanism that we can use if Ryder can determine the location of the dog and the owner, and we do have, something to bring against them. We're exploring whether we can like proactively say, when your dog comes to Mendon, it has to be muzzled, it has to be leashed, like some like dog specific things. In Rutland, apparently the Animal Control Board has at times done that with certain dogs that are, in the city that live out of town. So they think that there's some precedent for it. So it's nothing that we have to decide on, but if that action is taken, it would be dependent on what, Ryder finds and what he brings forth. And then, we might have a recommended action for us to take, in order to remedy it, to try to keep that dog from, attacking animals and people.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to move anything?
Yeah, why don't you
Okay.
go ahead and move both
Okay.
the new ordinance,
All right.
which is right here, and then
All right, so I'll first move that we amend the ordinance regulating dog and wolf hybrids in the draft that says as revised October 28th, 2025 to include penalty and waiver amounts.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then I'll move that we expressly authorize our deputy sheriff or the Rutland County sheriff to act as enforcement officer for the purposes of the dog and wolf hybrid ordinance, so that he may provide any necessary or requested additional support in that ordinance.
Did you get that, Sarah? Okay,
I will second that.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
So I'll tell Rod, hold on. Right, you want me to?
yes, if you would,
Hold on.
yeah, or, yeah.
Yep.
Thanks, since you've been
Yes.
having the conversation with him,
Yep.
tell him we will start actively looking to replace
Okay.
him. Okay. The universal fee structure update, is that Jesse or Sarah?
I think that's me.
Okay.
It's a very brief update. Given the advice from attorneys, I think now our plan is to still go forward. Jesse shared some of the current costs, but if you guys still agree that it's a good idea to have in one place, and anytime we need to update a fee, if it needs to also be done in that ordinance, we can update the littering fee or whatever it may be in the underlying ordinance. But then we would just keep this universal fee structure,
Yeah,
kind of
I think we
as
should.
your one-stop shop for costs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then check
Okay.
ongoing work.
Zoning bylaw update and timeline for public hearings.
So I'll recap this briefly only because we did talk about it last week, but last night the zoning planning commission did finalize what will be its proposed zoning amendments. The process pre my involvement, I think years way more than a year ago, was that when this came to fruition, it would be voted on by the voters, because there is an alternate process where, we could just approve them.
Right.
So what will happen is there's a public hearing, which is required, and that's scheduled for the 15th of November, with an eye toward town meeting day, and then the planning back for the time period where we're going to warn town meeting at the same time. We want to warn everything at the same time. We need to fit in the one stop it needs to make with us and the requirements that we have a public hearing, and if we're going to make changes, have time to have, post another public hearing. So to make that work, the Planning Commission is committed to voting out on the Monday following the Saturday hearing. So November 17th, we're going to vote out our version.
Okay, that's, okay, November 17th,
Yep.
got it.
And then we have a scheduled meeting that following Monday,
The 24th.
the 24th. And so the hope from the Planning Commission and our regional person who's been trying to help us is that at that meeting, we might warn a public hearing sometime for like the first week in December, trying to avoid the holiday season.
Yes.
And at least then we get our obligation out of the way. If at that time we decide we want to make changes and things like that, we'll still be able to kind of think and stew and decide that sometime in December, and then
And then
potentially
have it.
warn one like the very first week in January,
Yeah.
at which point we'll still make our deadline for town meeting.
Yeah, I think that soon,
Okay.
I don't want to kick this to next year.
Okay,
So I like that idea that the 24th, we will have it to
Yep.
discuss at our meeting.
Yep.
And it'll be an open meeting.
Yep.
Okay,
yep, and then we at that meeting should decide, and we'll probably need some help, and I can help too with, there are certain warning requirements for this public hearing, but in terms of scheduling, maybe Sarah can assist in kind of pre-thinking what would be a good hearing date in terms of everyone's availability.
yeah,
So we could set that on the 24th.
on the 24th, we'll
We'll
know
decide on the
Okay,
date, if
yeah.
that works.
it. Yeah,
Okay,
yes. Thank you.
thank you.
It's going to be great to get that voted out and
Done.
done.
And, just to further elaborate on that, so now is the time for everybody to read the drafts that are posted on our website, and to provide comment to the Planning Commission for these upcoming meetings. So I just want it to be a reminder that we will post on the website. The drafts are already there, but encouraging the townspeople to start reading the draft new rewrite of the zoning bylaws.
And is the one you're going to post going to show what it was?
It'll have, it's the marked up version.
Marked
so
up
you'll
version,
see, yeah.
okay. I've had a few peeks at it, but I think,
So that should be going to the Rutland Herald. The notice should be going tomorrow morning. And I think if Jesse didn't do it this afternoon, which I just sent it this afternoon, probably tomorrow. Oh, you did. So it's already on the zoning rewrite website or page of our website.
great. I can't wait to read it.
It's
89 pages.
89
Love it.
pages.
a lot of it is straight out.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Okay, so the next, we're going to adopt the new park and ride policy. Jesse, you want to talk about what brought this about?
I guess. Just overnight camping.
So we had a situation with somebody overnight camping in our, there's other people on, so I just want to make sure. So we had some people camping, so we decided to update our ordinance so that would not be permitted. And so we have an updated ordinance here that I'd like to move that we approve and put into place right away.
So I just want to clarify that, Megan, that this is a policy, not an ordinance, but
Oh,
it
okay.
still regulates, it does regulate what the rules of the use of the park and ride. And just to recap what that policy says is it just dictates that we have 10 spaces available for the park and ride, and that anybody is able to utilize that. No overnight parking, no littering, and no business commerce can take place in the park and ride area. And that the municipality has reserved the right to close the park and ride facility when we know there's going to be high traffic volume at the town office. And that's usually in coordination with the polls being open.
Okay.
We do allow for some overnight parking, but that is to be prearranged with the town clerk to make sure that we're aware of cars being left overnight.
Okay, but it's not anybody staying in a car overnight, it's just
And you
parked.
can't camp inside your vehicle, no.
Okay. Okay, so because it's not a ordinance, do we need to vote to accept it?
Yeah, motion to adopt the policy, and then it'll be listed under our policies on the website.
So I move that we adopt the policy regarding the new park and ride policy.
I'll second that.
Hold on just a minute, Sheriff has a question.
So, when it comes to enforcement of that,
Yeah,
who with the town would have jurisdiction to enforce that policy and say, hey, you need to leave, or hey, I need this car towed? Or to trespass somebody who's habitually offending and breaking those policies, who would have authority to enforce that?
I think we, once we saw it, would call the sheriff. We would tell people, and then if they wouldn't leave.
So it would be basically, one of you would have to be aware of the violation and then say, okay, transferring to the sheriff's office, I want you to handle this and enforce this. It might make sense as a suggestion. West Rutland did something with the dog park a few years back where they actually gave the sheriff's office free reign and full jurisdiction over that dog park. The primary reason was a lot of drug activity and unscrupulous behavior.
Mhm.
So at nighttime, when the town select board members or the rec manager, which isn't really bothered, we can go in there in the middle of the night, bust up a drug deal, and then issue trespasses, send everybody packing, tow vehicles. That way, if I'm up here,
Yeah.
and there's something going on, and I want to stop and check, oh, this is somebody who's camping here, or they've been camping here for a long time, or they're doing drugs in their car or whatever. Well, that would be kind of obvious enforcement on my part, but someone's there, and they are there for illegal reasons.
It's a policy violation.
As opposed to having to reach out to you guys first and wake you up in the middle of the night and say, hey, what do you want to do with this?
Yeah.
Might something be considered to have that in that policy where, outside of normal business hours, the town office, sheriff's office is given discretion to
Yeah.
enforce this policy?
Yeah, I think that we should amend it for that and bring it back to the next
That's a
meeting.
good suggestion.
Especially on weekends too, like, I work weekend days now, so, I don't want to bother you guys, and also, quickly get a handle. Obviously, this is a suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
we
thank
could-
you.
We could do that under our police powers and delegate that police power.
Okay,
So
so
do you
we,
want to withdraw that?
let's withdraw
And then,
and then we'll redo it for the next meeting.
okay. I'll just-
Okay,
Oh, my bad.
That's all right.
No,
No, we
that
are,
was a good-
it's so engaged
Okay,
with
they
our
care so
community
much about our
writer.
town.
I try.
You're very valuable asset to our community.
Thank you.
So the next item to discuss is budget preparation. And thank you to Chris and Jesse and Sarah for getting a jump on this year. I had time to review the whole thing, and it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, I think we still haven't talked to Lima about public safety. I think we're in good shape. The only thing I wanted to ask you, Sarah Tully, is about the insurance. And I see you ran a sheet on that, which I didn't look at I didn't notice until just now.
Mhm.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yep, so that's talking about health insurance and just to give you a timeline of your decision-making with health insurance, that is on a calendar year instead of a fiscal year. So instead of the fiscal year budget of 26-27 that we're talking about, this would be health insurance as of January 2026. The select board needs to make their decision before, really before the end of or middle of November because the employees have to have their forms into the insurance company by December 1st. So, what, the recommendation is, on, the memo to you is to utilize the same funding, formula that we have in the past, which is the, town paying for 92% of the premiums and the employees paying for about 7% of the premiums. And then it calculated, we did see a rate increase with MVP for our plans at a little over 1%. But the proposed health insurance will be decreasing based on the eligibility of the plans that the employees are able, that what they're eligible for has changed, and those that are choosing the buyout instead of taking advantage of the insurance.
Okay. So you're saying that as it stands, if we stay where we are and we don't go out, I mean, how often over the past years have you gone out and compared prices with other options, or is this all that's offered through VLCT?
No, we have an option of all that Blue Cross Blue Shield. There's multiple Blue Cross Blue Shield plans and MVP plans. What Mendon has historically done is set a value of amount of money that they would fund insurance with, and allow the employee to choose which company and plan is best for them. Now, Blue Cross Blue Shield rates are significantly higher than MVP's rates. So the recommendation is that the select board set their amount of funding on the MVP rates, but the employee can take that funding and choose the plan that might be best for their situation, their medical needs.
So for budgetary purposes, we're looking at probably a 1% increase.
No, actually, we're looking at, for budgetary purposes, we're looking at a decrease, and that is still folding in an approximate 5% increase for next year, because this will include, for the budget, it would include rate increases effective January of 2027.
Got it. Okay.
And we're still looking at a decrease, and that's based on the eligibility of the plans.
And what changed?
So when I talk about eligibility of the plans, is that each employee falls into a category, whether they are single, a two-person plan, a parent plus child, or a family plan.
Okay.
And so those statuses, their eligibility statuses have changed over budgeting last year.
Okay. So why don't we, since Jesse's here, let's talk about Jesse's budget. We have Chris's write-up, his memorandum that I've already reviewed, but we can have him come to the next select board meeting. But so Jesse, you just want to walk us through any changes, anything you want to just call to our attention.
Sarah's so much better at this.
Do you want Sarah to take us through your budget?
Yeah, so pretty much when we had budget meetings, we went line by line, and as a group, we kind of did the research on what we would recommend to the select board. So the administration budget We saw areas where we could increase revenue. That one is the payment in lieu of taxes. That line item is a combination of 3 different areas of revenue we receive from the federal and state government we get a payment in lieu of taxes, meaning that they pay us for federal and state lands that are not on our tax rolls. So we receive payments in that area. The federal share significantly increased once the supervisor's building with the Green Mountain and Finger Lakes, that supervisor's building was constructed. So now we're seeing increased payment from the federal government on payment in lieu of taxes. And that also includes revenue of the current use program, where the state provides funding for private properties that are enrolled in the current use program.
Okay, yeah, I see on the 24-25 was up significantly. So that was up to 76.9, but now you're just gonna do 70,000 for the budget.
We are recommending 70,000 because one of the things, this isn't guaranteed money. So the state will look at this as part of their budget process as well as the federal government. And the federal government is really on a trend of cutting back assistance to the states. So we suggested an increase, but we were budgeting conservatively on that.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And then, so the next area of income that we changed was the investment interest. Interest rates are up from the previous couple years. And so we are realizing a greater flow of income from investment income. So we recommended that we increase that by $17,000 to $30,000. Again,
what's our actual looking like this year? Is this to date? Are we ahead of what our current budget is?
I don't have those year-to-date numbers in front of me, but I don't know if Jesse does, or we can put that on our list of things to look up.
I just was, I mean, you obviously made the decision based on something, and you must have seen that it was in
the last 2 years actuals.
Okay.
We were realizing income of about $40,000 to $43,000, and we had budgeted 13, and we had been carrying forward that 13 for a couple years too. So this just ups it, but it doesn't, if interest rates fluctuate between now and June 30th.
Yeah, you just put it up to 30. You didn't put up to 43.
Correct.
Just put it up to 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So with those 2 line items right there, it's about $25,000 in increased revenue.
Good.
Zoning permits, we also recommended an increase of about $1,000 in that area. We are realizing a lot of progress in Mendon with some buildings. So we recommended that you increase that. Those are fees that we'll receive in building permits and whatnot.
Okay.
And maybe we can review whether we need to make adjustments, for our fees too.
Yeah. And that's conservative based on what it seems like starting to go on.
It's all, whether those projects that are in the works come to fruition and actually take out building permits during this time frame.
So is there anything else in the administrative budget that's a red flag?
No, so there were a few increases, decreases. We shifted some of the payment when we don't have an annual expense known, that we would take it out of the reserve funds, specifically like tax maps. They're printed not necessarily within the fiscal year, so we are going to incorporate that into the preservation fund, so that the money is available when we need to print tax maps. CAI does take care of the annual maintenance of updating the system. But when we actually go to print the maps, that's when we incur an additional expense there.
I want to go back up to salaries and wages. And
Sure.
I'm on the administrative budget history, continued in the proposed budget. I'm wondering about the zoning administrator pay, because this year, last year it was probably lower than it's going to be this year, but it's been my thought that it's probably not going to hit the budget this year.
Mm-hmm. So when we folded in, and this is just the first draft of the budget.
Yeah.
When we folded in, we were looking at the 2025 VLCT compensation salary benefit study that was recently received. This is an annual study of the compensation of employees across the state. And the recommended increases in salaries is based on the median salary for those positions in the state of Vermont. So that is certainly an area that the select board can look at a variety of different ways to look at salaries, both looking at the COLA for both the state of Vermont and the federal government, which is approximately between 2.8 and 3%.
Mm-hmm.
Merit increases based on evaluations, and the select board is up to date on evaluations with their employees, and as well as any achievements that your employees have made with additional certifications that they've made over the course of the past year and their goals going forward. Those were all discussed in their evaluations. So I put some numbers in there based on that median salary, and that should be discussed individually with,
Okay.
the board.
Yeah. All right.
And then one other question for the select board is, we have allocated $2,000 for economic development. We haven't necessarily utilized those funds in the past few years, but we do have the results from the community study, the community visit, that it is a priority of Mendon to revitalize Route 4. And so we just would like some direction on whether we want to continue to fund that at $2,000 or make an adjustment there.
Okay. So that would involve, do we have that in a reserve fund, or is that just every year, just $2,000?
What you're looking at right now is only the general fund. So there is a Mendon Economic Development Reserve Fund, which is funded, I'm going to show you under the next page, under the reserve funds. We also have the Medic Reserve Fund that also receives $2,000. That is a savings account. So that's going into the reserve fund annually. And earlier in the budget is an actual line item. So that would only be spent from July 1 to June 30th.
So basically in the budget is an additional $2,000 beyond what's going in the reserve fund for something we don't have any plans for?
It's about $4,000. We don't have any specific plans for, but we do have a goal and a priority to increase productivity of Route 4.
Yeah, and I was chairing that committee, and we could not come to a decision on a way to spend that money. So I would like to flag that as possibly not putting the $2,000 in the budget this year. I think we need to be really sensitive to.
Sure.
And if there is some money already in a reserve that we can spend and we get a plan together, it will probably take us till the following year to implement anything anyway. I mean, I think it's great that we're using the recreation money. We have an active recreation committee, and I think there's some good things going to come of that. But for economic development right now, I just don't really see what we could do at this point beyond plant some flowers and, you know, I'd really like to save money where we can.
I'm really
Right,
curious to see what happens with the Rutland Town, that walking trail or that biking trail, and see how that, when and if that comes to fruition, what that does for potential, you know, bringing people into Mendon. I don't really know a lot about it, but I just wonder a couple years from now, that would be. But again, I agree with you. That's for next year's budget, for next year's.
And I also think we have to see with Killington's development, what's going to roll down the hill, and, you know, the Vermont Inn's for sale. I've talked to the new owners of Countryman's Pleasure. I'm talking to a lot of inn consultants around the country about the Vermont Inn, but then I saw it was listed as a multifamily listing in the real estate ads. It's not listed as a business. So, you know, those are things that aren't costing us any money, and I'm willing to keep doing those things. But, you know, and I also think with Greg, and the zoning administrator, when he's seeing, you know, and I can see ahead through what he's hearing, then, you know, we can make a difference without spending any money. So I won't charge for it. I won't charge administrative fee.
some of the other areas that we were able to just shave off some cost savings, and you guys have to decide whether you're going to agree with Jesse and I or not, is last year we increased from fiscal year 25 to 26, we increased the legal fee budget from $4,000 to $8,000. And we thought that we could scale back on that possibly to $6,000.
Well, are we sure? Because I think we're going to incur some, well, that's this budget is the zoning stuff.
The zoning stuff should be probably this budget.
Yeah.
My hope would be not, but if we have a need, then we can make budget adjustments in coming years.
Yeah,
I think that's fine.
I think that's a good idea for this upcoming year, because we know this year we have the zoning, but then next year we don't. Where else? It looks like.
So, yeah, office supplies and maintenance. This was a little bit of a cost shift that we are creating an annual maintenance budget out of the reserve fund for the office maintenance now that we have paid off our bond, and we're saving for the future for more maintenance of the office because it's over 20 years old now. So we thought we would reduce the maintenance line item here, part of that, in order to spend the funds for maintenance out of the reserve fund.
Okay.
And part of that is that with 3 men on the highway department, that we do have them doing some building maintenance, specifically pressure washing the building, doing the windows, and was there something else, Jesse, that we?
They pretty much do whatever they ask them to do.
Yeah, it's the exterior part of the building, and just some minor repairs inside. But we just thought that if we allocated about $2,000 a year out of the reserve fund, which we're not asking for an increase, this is just a cost savings and a cost shift from this line item to the reserve fund, that, you know, we might have some repairs to siding, and, you know, where we see rot or minor repairs.
Yeah, we're going to start seeing that stuff with the building being the age that it is, but it's, but we can certainly stay on top of it. And
the reserve fund pays for like the water system replacement, the pump, the excavation out back if we need to direct water away from the building, the heating system, the grinder pumps for the septic system, paint for the exterior of the building, and carpet replacement, paint for the interior of the building. Just a plan down the road to pay for those types of expenses. So we are recommending changing that line item from $9,000 to $7,000.
Okay,
And then I already spoke about the tax maps, that budget would go from 4,750 to 3,000 because we're taking the expense of printing the tax maps out of the preservation fund
got it.
instead of out of this line item. Just lowering our general fund budget. And then it looks like if you accept the proposal for health insurance, that we would realize a savings of approximately $5,000 on health insurance. We have some minor increases in the budget with retirement and payroll taxes, but those are going to be dependent on where you land with salaries. So those will be adjusted accordingly.
So what I need to do is just look at what you put in for increases what that percentage is over
Sure.
last year for
Sure.
every position.
Mhm.
And I think we as a select board need to have that conversation soon. Now, would that have to be a warned meeting?
If you're going to have a budget meeting,
Would that
yeah.
be executive session?
You can go into executive session to discuss employee evaluations. So as you are tying your recommendation to a merit increase based on evaluations, you can go into executive session for that purpose. When you come out of executive session and you've determined salaries, that's when they would go into the budget, and then the budget will be approved by the entire select board before it's warned for town meeting.
Okay, do we know if Chris has done the evaluations on his guys?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Have you done Joy yet?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, well, I will talk to Jesse and Chris about those. And then we'll have an executive session at the next
Yeah.
select board meeting to discuss this. Because I think in the past, we have, the past has been, we've just done a percentage over the year before. And I get what you've done. I appreciate what you've done, but I've got to see what those percentages are.
Absolutely. We had to fold something in there. So that's what we're recommending. That's not necessarily where you're going to land.
Okay.
Sarah, would you share with the three of us the I know the VLCT just came out with their new analysis of all the positions and where all the towns are on pay.
Yeah.
That would be something to compare.
Yep, I can definitely do that.
Okay. Thank you. Where's Chris on the, I see the administrative positions.
So his salary would be under highways.
It's under highways.
Okay.
That's the next budget. But the last recommendation is to reduce the line item of unemployment insurance by $5,000. The unemployment insurance will be paid, but it's paid out of the insurance line item because we get one bill from VLCT regarding workman's comp, unemployment insurance, and property casualty insurance. That's all coming from VLCT.
Okay, so it's under another line. So that's why.
It's under another line, and looking at that line, we do not have to increase that by $5,000. That we're able to pay for it with the budgeted $30,000 that we already have in the budget for insurance.
Okay. Is that new, or is that just something that was not?
Well, unemployment insurance is fairly new. We've only been paying for it for like 3 years. So I'm just moving where we're paying it out of instead of a line item of unemployment that it be put under VLCT as one lump sum payment for insurance.
Okay. All righty. Well, I think next meeting, we'll invite Chris, and then we'll talk to him, and then we will go into executive session and discuss the salary line.
Yeah, and Chris did submit a detailed
Yes.
budget.
Yeah, I
with
read that.
cost explanations. So that will give you time to review between now and the next meeting to come with any of your questions.
Yes.
Also at the next meeting, you'll have the timeline of the reserve funds, which will indicate a draft plan of what we're going to spend that money on. With most of the reserve funds have a 20-year plan with them.
Okay, yeah, I read Chris's report, and it looks like they're, gonna keep the trucks longer. That was good to see.
Yeah, and that was a decision we made last year, and we're just continuing to evaluate our equipment in order to see what the best equipment replacement is for the large trucks that, as a reminder, with inflation have increased from a $200,000 truck to a $400,000 truck.
Yeah.
So-
Okay, so we will discuss all that next meeting. I think we are in a much better place than we were last year at this time, so thank you very much for that.
Mhm.
And I am gonna ask that Seth be a part of the salary conversation, even though, with with the personal relationships, but I do still want Seth's input on that conversation. So we will treat that as it is. Okay, wow. All right, well, thank you guys for this, and thank you guys for covering for me last week. I was having too much fun to attend the meeting. And that may happen again. So I guess I will move to adjourn the meeting at 7 o'clock. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.